Okay. How's everybody doing? All right, we're live now. This is Art Banaka. Welcome to my channel. And we have a guest tonight. We have SyriEyeS. How you doing, SyriEyeS?
Hello, everyone. I'm good.
Yeah, everything good?
Always good.
Yeah, good. I like that. So basically, I'm trying to have like an episode with you, like I think once a week, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, unless you don't have anything else to post, then you drop a jewel.
So yeah, I'm trying to see if I can actually, you know what it is. I need to stop treating this like just as a hobby. I need to be able to constantly have something, you know.
Well, I don't mean to, I don't mean to put you on blast, but
Yeah.
your organization skills are lacking.
Oh,
So this just I'm sorry, but this falls under that category, is the organization of things. I think once you form a certain routine at work, and then you slowly start adding these other routines, you'll get better at it.
oh yeah, because there's a lot of things I want to do. I want to be able to continue with my
Well,
digital
excellent.
Polska,
Yeah.
which is every Sunday I actually have a podcast for my Polish audience.
Yeah.
Basically, it's not. It's also I use it as a practice. I want to be able to like pretty much challenge myself with my Polish skills, you know, and have a podcast with you once a week. I want to have one with Enigma once a week, but
Yeah.
all that I need to have like a set schedule because at the moment I don't.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why it has to remain a hobby until I actually get the hang of this. And I'm actually, to be honest with you,
I think I would like it for it to be a hobby at always, because then you're more free to speak your mind.
well, this is like the blessing and the curse, right? Because once you become a big channel, then you are under more scrutiny,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time, it's easy to lose yourself because once you have like a group of audience that that admire your work, and you find out, okay, and you're analytic, what actually produce the most, the most views or whatever the case may be, and then it's easier to actually
You
just
start targeting at the
towards that. Yes, exactly. Whereas with me, on the other hand, I'm like, I have many layers. I'm multifaceted. So then, therefore, just to have one thing I always talk about, it's I can't do
I
that.
don't like when they do that anyway. I often end up unfollowing people, unsubscribing from people that are that have a specific audience and who target a specific audience, mainly because it becomes very repetitive. They say the same thing over and over with just different words.
Like, I like to grow with my audience sometimes, and I think my podcast kind of reflect, should be a reflection of around what direction I'm taking in my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Depends on whether you're a motivational channel, which is about how I'm growing, or whether you're a commentary channel, which is where something inspires an opinion and you share it, or there's many, or you're a truth. There's many different formats that already exist. Um, I personally don't like when it's just one topic.
Mm-hmm.
Based on one topic. I don't do travel channels. So if I'm listening to someone, I'm not going to be sitting around listening to them describe what it's like being in this country or that country, or where it's like living as a foreigner in that country. I don't like that because I've experienced it myself. So, maybe people who like to do it, I don't know. I personally don't.
Oh, there was like once we're on the road, there's gonna be um a lot of things that we get to experience about America or when we travel overseas, and it's
Yeah, but I'd rather actually experience it than just record it for other people to experience it.
what was crazy, right? Like when we went to Lublin, and like we were having such a great time that we didn't really do much recording. Like I kind of regret it, but at the same time, I enjoyed the fact that I experienced it.
That's the thing. I find that behind the camera, I'm always looking behind the camera.
Yeah. So
So
you
I'm really
like,
experiencing. I'm just I'm letting the camera experience it.
mhm.
You know.
So, and I think that's one of my problems. Like sometimes when we go somewhere new and we just like,
I don't think that's a problem. We're collecting memories. We're just not collecting memories for others to view.
yeah, that's true.
I'm that type of person. I was never the type of person to walk around with a camera taking pictures left and right. You know.
Yeah, it's kind of like, dude, like I didn't even have the chance to take to take a picture with O'Shea. Well, it's not like I didn't have the chance. I did have the chance, but it didn't even cross my mind.
Oh, that means, you were too busy having a good time.
Man. Well, anyway, so what's today's topic? Learn
Learn
help,
helplessness.
learn helplessness.
Well, I suppose this falls under learned helplessness and psychological victimhood.
All right. Well, how about you elaborate? I want you to take over on this one. What do you mean by learn helplessness?
Actually, I've got receipts. No, I've got articles ready and waiting to read what it actually means and then my interpretation on it. Hold on.
All right.
Because no, I could tell people go research it, but a lot of times people don't actually go into and search for things. So I got them ready so they can hear it. Okay,
All right.
so I'll read it to you what it means, what it says. Get the.
All right. Learn
Okay,
helplessness.
so learned helplessness in psychology. All right, so you ready?
Hmm?
Might have some big words, so we'll break it down later on. All right, so learned help.
Smart. They got this shit.
Okay, good. Learned helplessness in psychology is a mental state in which an organism is forced to bear aversive stimuli or stimuli that are painful or otherwise unpleasant becomes unable or unwilling to avoid subsequent encounters with those stimuli, even if they are escapable, presumably because it has learned that it cannot control the situation. The theory of learned helplessness was conceptualized and developed by American psychologist Martin E. P. Seligman at the University of Pennsylvania in the late 1960s and 70s. I don't think that the date is, you know, irrelevant. I think it's important. But anyway, that's beside the point. While conducting experimental research on classical conditioning, Seligman inadvertently discovered that dogs that had received unavoidable electric shocks failed to take action in subsequent situations, even those in which escape or avoidance was in fact possible. Whereas dogs that had not received the unavoidable shocks immediately took action in subsequent situations. The experiment was replicated with human subjects using loud noise as opposed to electric shocks, yielding similar results. Seligman coined the term learned helplessness to describe the expectation that outcomes are uncontrollable. Learned helplessness has since become a basic principle of behavioral theory, demonstrating that prior learning can result in a drastic change in behavior and seeking to explain why individuals may accept and remain passive in negative situations despite their clear ability to change them. In his book, Helplessness, in 1975, Seligman argued that as a result of these negative expectations, other consequences may accompany the inability or unwillingness to act, including low self-esteem, chronic failure, sadness, and physical illness. The theory of learned helplessness also has been applied to many conditions and behaviors, including clinical depression, aging, domestic violence, poverty, discrimination, parenting, academic achievement, drug abuse, and alcoholism. Critics, however, have argued that a variety of different conclusions can be drawn from Seligman's experiments, and therefore broad generalizations, most frequently found in the areas of clinical depression and academic achievement, are unwarranted. For example, the application of the theory to clinical depression is viewed as an oversimplification of the illness that fails to account for the complex cognitive processes involved in its etiology, severity, and manifestation. So, and this is from Britannica.com. So basically what the experiment was is, Seligman put a whole bunch of dogs in a room and hung food up on a rope. And every time the dog tried to go for the food, it would receive an electric shock. After a while, the dog stopped going for the food in fear of the electric shock. Even when the electric shock was removed, they held back and refused to go forward. Now, the funny part, not the funny, but the interesting part of the experiment is when he introduced new dogs into that group, into that same group, and those dogs saw the food. They never experienced the shock, but they saw the food, and they tried to go for the food. The old dogs would stop them because they would try to prevent them from getting shocked. That is learned helplessness.
Okay. But I got a question though. Do you think that if those dogs that used to get shocked for their food, if you actually were able to take those dogs out of their environment and place them in a new environment, do you think that they would actually behave differently?
They would be in fear. They would be in fear. They would be cautious in doing whatever, especially when it came to food, because they would fear the consequences.
Okay. But how would you apply that to human being? Because say, for example, one of the things that
what happens to you, what happens to the African Americans who try to leave the community, who try to educate themselves, who try to better themselves? What happens to them? They get ostracized and picked on and said, you ain't Black, or you're leaving the community.
But then again, like some of these,
I would say think of the community as the room that the dogs were placed in.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm putting it this way, right? I'm looking at it from, let's say that coming from Haiti, come from a place of poverty and whatnot, and lack of opportunity, and move to the States, whereas it is the same environment. I mean, it is a different environment. And I was able to actually recognize this opportunity to actually take advantage of it.
Definitely, but more likely, you are more likely to overcome learned helplessness in in a different environment than you are in the environment you remained in.
That's where I was actually, going for, to be able to change. So then, is leaving the hood is a good thing, or leaving your environment for African American is maybe a good thing to actually kind of get away from this whole learned helplessness thing?
Yes, but it also explains why so many hate those who leave the community and try to keep them in the community because they fear what's outside of it.
Because that is one thing I always encourage people to do, right? Which is travel. Once you travel, it actually expands your horizon, expands your mind. But what I've actually been seeing recently in Black YouTube and whatnot is that, yes, a lot of African American, right? They are now getting their passport. They are now traveling. They are going elsewhere. But what I see happening is they actually still bringing with them the same old habits that actually were very destructive for them in their environment and bringing it elsewhere.
Yes, for example, sorry, go ahead.
So for example, like when they go to DR, it's all about like, well, I'm gonna go and just get some ass, and it's like, dude, there's other things you could do now. It's not all about that anymore, and it's like it's hard to break those habits. And then especially when you bring like the more of them you bring together, it's kind of like they bring the whole environment with them.
That's because they don't consider it condition. They don't like one of the first. I actually have three key things you can use to help yourself overcome learned helplessness. Number one key is to understand the nature of the condition. They're in denial. So when someone's in denial, they refuse to accept that it's an issue. It's like when you hear African American men say, well, we're supposed to fuck around because sex is natural and that's what men do. So it's not the man's fault that they go around, produce a whole bunch of kids with a whole bunch of different baby mamas. It's the woman's fault for spreading her legs open for him. It's a denial. if you, you know, first it's the whole thing with the whole cancer thing. First, you have to understand it. You have to accept that it's there, and then you can overcome it.
The 5 stages of grief:
Yeah.
denial, anger, bargaining, and what was the other two? You have acceptance. Wait,
You want me to okay.
nah,
5 stages.
I'm not gonna go through it right now, but I know it's like the 5 stages of death or 5 stages of,
Five stages of grief:
yeah.
denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Yep. So those, you know, we all been through it. We all been through it. When we first start realizing we have been programmed and we have to, you know, break the cycle of programming, we deny it. Then we get angry, you know, we want to destroy everything. And then we start bargaining. Well, you know, I'll do this if this happens, and I'll do that if that happens. You know, and then it's depression, where we get really sad, and then we accept things. And it's really interesting, the paradox. What happens that when you accept it is when you can change it.
But like, isn't there like a sort of comfort that actually comes from learned helplessness?
Yes,
That
it becomes
you don't no longer now have to risk anything, because you know that if you make any move, then it's gonna be used against you. So you could just sit back and just now complain. You know, it's like, what's the point of me actually to be a good human being when I know that as soon as I step outside my house, then cops gonna harass me? You know,
now it's called victim mentality, where you just described the comfort in learned helplessness is called victim mentality. And victim mentality is a psychological term that refers to a type of dysfunctional mindset which seeks to feel persecuted in order to gain attention or avoid self-responsibility. People who struggle with the victim mentality are convinced that life is not only beyond their control, but is out of deliberately hurt them. So they go hand in hand. They go together, like white on rice. Right? They go together, because what happens is you have learned helplessness, and then victim mentality is the excuse why learned helplessness is okay. I'm not helpless. I'm a victim. It's like, you know, how, you know, someone who has cancer is an asshole. And when they're an asshole and you point out that they're an asshole, well, I've got cancer. Well, that doesn't justify your behavior. It's the same thing. It's like you point out that, you know, you've got learned helplessness. There's ways to overcome it. Well, I'm not helpless, okay? I'm a strong human being. I've just been hurt. I'm just a victim. Go hand in hand.
So,
but in order to you know, in order for you to have a better life, you have to overcome them. No one else can. No one else can overcome them but you. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, if that's the case, then this is something that a lot of nationalities also suffer from it, not just from America. Like, for example, right? Like, I cannot, you know, criticize African Americans for the same behaviors which I also see in Haitians.
Sure, you can.
You know,
because you're criticizing the entire group, you're criticizing the behavior. And you can criticize the behavior in the Haitian as much as you can criticize the behavior in a Polak, as much as you can criticize the behavior in an American. What you can't do, however, is criticize the behavior you yourself exhibit. Because that's hypocrisy.
Wait, can you repeat that again? Sorry. I didn't get that.
Okay. You see a behavior in a Haitian.
Yep.
And you point it out to them saying, hey, hold on a minute. You can't piss on this person. Pissing on a person is wrong. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't have pissed on a person, right? So you said that to a Haitian. And then you see an American doing the same exact thing. So you're going to turn around, and what are you going to say to that American? Hey, listen, you can't piss on a person. Pissing on a person is wrong. You shouldn't have pissed on a person. And then you go to an Iranian, And you say the same thing because you see them doing the same thing. And you say, hey, you can't piss on a person. Pissing on a person is wrong. You shouldn't have piss on a person. Now, if you piss on a person, you can't say those words, can you?
Gotcha. So then, therefore, if you're doing something and you're comfortable at doing something, then you cannot just be mad at somebody else for doing the exact same thing you're doing.
Exactly, because that's hypocrisy.
And that is also one of the behaviors which I have to say, I'm sorry to say, but it is quite common in the West, where I can do something, but you're not allowed to do it to me.
Yes, that is why foreigners have an issue with the Westerners, because of that. Because that behavior is very evident. It's not hidden. It's obvious.
Okay. So then, I'm trying to think of a like, because I do see what you're saying, like, but
you're trying to come up with a counter to it. You don't need to play the devil's advocate, you know.
I'm not trying to play the devil's advocate, right? I'm not trying to play the devil's advocate because, look, all these okay, all these knowledge, right? You can have those knowledge, but you need to also have the will to
apply it,
do something about it, to apply. You know, that's the difference between being knowledgeable and having wisdom, you know, and being a wise person. So, like when you see all the discussion online, and one of the things that we need to take into account is that the whole group will never be able to follow that. The whole group you would always gonna have those who constantly want to remain in the whole learn helplessness stage and would actually damn you for it if you actually decide to move forward and actually leave them behind.
Yes.
You know,
you have to have the strong willpower to be able to walk on your own 2 feet. If the whole crowd is walking in the wrong direction, you have to have the balls, as the saying goes. I'm not saying you have to be a man, but you have to have the balls to actually be willing to walk in the opposite direction on your own.
Because I think this is that feeling of abandonment is actually quite common amongst everybody. And it's not just a race thing. Because when it's like this, right? Like when we started to do research about a whole lot of things in the world, like with the monetary system or the laws and all these other things,
started delving down those rabbit holes.
Delving down the rabbit holes, a lot of conversation we could no longer have with our peers, with our family members, because they would not understand it.
Yeah.
Nor did they actually really give it them.
They didn't want to understand it because it would shatter their
belief system.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because like being that pioneer also a lot of time is the thing that helped tilt the balance, because it's like, have you ever seen when you come across people, right, that actually talking about the same thing that you used to try to talk to them about like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, but yet that kind of conversation was too crazy for them. But now to them, they actually coming at you and giving you those information as if like it's
like you don't know what you're talking about, even though you're the dumb one, because even though you researched it before, but you don't know. You don't know the shit that they discovered.
And the funny thing about it though is like, it's like it always brings a smile to my face because I see myself in them. You know, I see myself. I used to be the one that's like always try to drill information out to people that don't even ask for it.
I know, it was so bad. It was wrong. It was wrong. So then, because we felt like, how could you? Come on, you gotta know it. You know what it is? When someone gains knowledge, they have this natural instinct to want to share it.
Yeah, and that's why I'm a firm believer of. That's why I'm a firm believer of the student finds the teacher, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So,
but the teacher needs to put themselves out there to be findable.
I'll give you an example, right? I'll give you an example. A lot of the YouTubers, some of our favorite YouTubers that we have right now, they don't like when they're speaking about certain things, they barely scratch the surface. They can go way deeper. They could go on some cuckoo shit, you know. And but when they speak, they just kind of hint at it. Like you would have, like, let's say, Erica would say some shit like, "Oh, Skynet is acting up," right?
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love when I hear someone just hint because I'm like, I hear you. I know what you're on about.
It's
Yeah.
like, so we both know, like, she knows a lot of shit. She knows a lot of deep shit, but because of
Yeah.
her audience is more, her audience is more based on, listen, I'm just trying to get my shit together. So it's kind of like this, right? You went so far into the rabbit hole and you realize how everything worked. So now you're like, okay, well, I can't go off the grid. I still need to live in that system which is created. So now how do I do that? Well, I can't tell all the people that all the crazy shit that I know, then all of a sudden I'm classified as being crazy. So then I can, then at least I can teach them how to navigate within the matrix,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
without having to tell them too much about the other shit. The other shit,
And you throw little keywords here and there just to let those who are listening know you're on the same frequency.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, and it's a lot of these.
Awesome. That's when you're like, yeah, you my tribe, you my people.
Like
It's like that secret handshake that the Illuminati supposedly have, right?
yeah,
That's what it feels like when somebody just, they're in the middle of a conversation, they're talking about stuff, and then someone like Lovely T will talk about spirits real quick. There is forces y'all don't know about. It's like, yeah, I hear you. I know what you're talking about.
exactly. So it's like those who knows. Like, let's say when you see someone with a an anonymous mask, you know, Guy Fox, and then you just like you just look at him and be like, yeah, we are Legion.
Yeah, well, just like, when you're walking by somebody and you smell like, you smell their pop perfume and you're like, good morning.
it's the
the word is camaraderie.
yeah, exactly. You know, and all of that, right? It's a culture.
Yeah, yeah, it's your own culture within a culture. It's like it's a unspoken. It's a secret that's out in the open, and only certain people know.
So, and I think that's why learn helplessness. You cannot help a whole race.
You cannot help everybody because a drowning man will drown you before you have a chance to pull them up. You can only help those who are willing to help themselves. And how do you know? By seeing them doing it.
So that's why I think like it's no. It's like that's why I cannot focus on a race. I have to focus on individual. And I always tell people, I'm like, look, be the change you want to see in the world. And those who look up to you would actually, that change will radiate, and that will give them courage to be like, okay, I can be the best person I can be. I don't have to actually like worry about the backlash. Because one of the thing in the 90s, right? One of the messages that I used to actually spill out in a lot of the movies was like, artist uses life to tell the truth, or does art imitate life, or life imitate art? And one of the things that they try to do is like they try to let people believe that everything's out of your control. You should just let it happen. And but that's wrong, because those people actually create art. They are contributing to the change in society.
Which is why if you look at, when countries were invaded and occupied, the first people to die were not just the professors, but also the artists, the musicians.
Yep, exactly.
Because those are the ones who create.
They were the brain of every society.
They were also the brains of every revolution. But sorry.
Yep. So to me, that's like and then also that's one of the things I kind of encourage to promote the good image of Black people.
Absolutely.
And just like you like to promote the good image of Polacks, I like to promote the good image of Haitians. And yeah, is there a lot of fucked up people out there? Fuck yeah. But talking about, women and shit all the time, it's not gonna solve your problem. Talk about niggas and shit all the time, it's not gonna solve the problem. Okay, we know a lot of y'all ain't shit. That is true.
You just get a lot of views and a lot of likes, but that's it.
So it's like, yes, I get it. A lot of y'all ain't shit. Now, how about you point to me to the ones that are somebody?
Especially if you try to claim yourself to be somebody, if you're somebody, you should know people that are somebody.
So these are the people I want to see. These are the image that I want to see that actually helps build up, because I think that's the only way you create that example to actually combat learned helplessness. Because
Yes.
it's gonna get to the point it's not even cool no more to complain about like, oh, the white man got this foot down my neck.
Well, it's getting there right now. The new generation is getting tired of hearing about it.
Yeah, and it's funny because the new the new generation is like, whenever like the old heads, when they want to talk about like racism this, racism that, and then the Gen X's, and they looking at it like, what the fuck are you talking about? Look, my
And
best
that's
friend is
not
white.
the
My
millennial.
best friend. So exactly, the millennial and the Gen X's, they don't see it anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
the old heads
That's
want to keep
the thing.
drilling this whole divide and conquer shit.
Yeah.
People don't want to hear it no more.
And I think that's a good thing. If you're living in the same country, you kind of need that. You need to start focusing on the similarities, because the divide and conquer mentality is the mentality of I don't want to use the term, but it's the mentality of the oppressor. The king in his castle will use whatever tools he has to keep you focusing away from the king in his castle. And divide and conquer is the best one, because he will say, hey, look, he's got the bread. You ain't got no bread. Fight each other.
Yep. Yeah. uh, on that.
Sun Tzu and the Art of War is the most important fucking book in our century, to be honest, because our wars are fought psychologically before they are, bombed to smithereens.
Yes. The Art of War. That was, I think, we still got that book in Poland, right? That was one of the books that we actually take with us from
Yeah.
England. The Art
Yeah.
of War, The 48 Laws of Power. Anybody, I want y'all to read these two books. And also, George Orwell. Well, if you haven't read 1984, 1984 is a really good book. But you know which book was actually one of my favorite out of George Orwell? Animal Farm.
Yeah, I knew it.
Animal Farm, dude.
And it's really easy to read too. But them pigs, man.
Artist uses lie to tell the truth.
Yeah.
So Animal Farm. Matter of fact, I want y'all to write these books down, because if y'all really want to grow spiritually.
You know what I'll do, babes? What I'll do.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for interrupting you. Before you post this podcast, I'll go on Amazon and I'll get you the links. I'll email them to you so you can put them in the description box.
Yes. All right. Perfect.
So what is it? Art of War.
Yep. Sun Tzu, Art of War, and then we have the 48 Laws of Power, and then Animal Farm by George Orwell.
In all honesty, 48 Laws of Power comes from Art of War. It's just different. It's written for,
it's just easier to read.
Yeah.
Easier to read, and also in which every law, it gives you an example. Like, for example, it will tell you, okay, it will tell you one of the laws, and it will give you an example of Machiavelli. And during
I like Art of War, because Art of War.
not Art of War. 48 Laws of Power. It would give you one of them. Mm-hmm.
But I personally like Art of War better, because Art of War speaks my language, because it's poetry.
Yeah, no, you all into that riddle shit, So
I learned it that way, play on words. So Art of War, Animal Farm, 48 Laws of Power, and what else? Anything else that we need to?
That's all I could think of at the moment, but there's so many other good books.
I'm gonna send you
and if you can also throw 1984
about no, not 1984 doesn't apply to this.
Yeah.
19. I'm gonna send you a link to some information about learned helplessness and victim mentality as well.
Yeah, I'll just post it in the link in the description down below.
For those whoever wants to learn, because one thing that I have been angry about, it's actually made me angry now. Back in like 2009 to 2013, when we used to debate people online, which was like the best time ever. Mm-hmm. Trolls and everything. We would share information and links. So anyone, whenever we had a point to make, we would share a link with it, right? That's missing. I hate it. When I debate someone nowadays,
these were the times.
I ask them to verify their claim or back up their claim with a link, even if it's an article, which I think is just like, it's not evidence, but whatever, it's somebody else's opinion. But even if it's an article, I'll share a link. The first thing you hear from them is, you have Google, research yourself. And I just want to say, yeah, I will. And I'll come again, and I'll provide you information that differs from yours, you know?
But this is, I think two things happen with that, right? Which is, I think that's another podcast on his own, right?
Yeah.
Two things that happen with that, with the whole research era, when, like, you know, you say something, you provide links, is one of them is that people becomes, you know, the whole social justice era, social justice warrior era, start to come about where everybody's offended. Nobody give a fuck, but yet everybody's easily offended, right? That's
I love the contradiction of that one. That's a paradox on its own.
So that is that one thing. And the second thing is this, right? Is that for some strange reason, whatever your belief system is, you're gonna find an article that back up your claim.
Yeah, yeah. You know? But that's because it's articles, it's all opinions. The actual evidence, the actual research,
yeah,
a lot of it is hidden behind a paywall.
So that's why I think it's like, yes, you okay. I think just you can have, let's say, an opinion, right? And then you back it up by, you know, certain sources. Some of them might not even be peer reviews, but they sounds legit and all that stuff too. It's like you go to www.imright.com,
yeah,
and you find something that supports your claim.
Yeah.
But now what usually happen now is that it kind of miss like certain questions that you can even, like, you know, once you ask it, that argument fall apart regardless you got proof or not. Like, for example, right? So that you take an argument between pro-vaccine and anti-vaccine, right?
Yep.
Both of them would actually be able to have a shitload of articles and researchers and all this shit to back up their claim, right? And then you ask that question like, okay, well, here's the thing. So the same people that create a whole bunch of disease, should we trust them to actually give us should we trust them to actually give us the cure of the disease which they created in the first place? You know? And it's like, and then, but those who don't care about like those type of logic, they would just turn around and be like, you're missing the point.
So we're totally going into a bonus round right here. But the thing that doesn't even irritate me, I can deal with that. That's fine. What really bothers me is the fact that you only have a certain talking points you can cover in those arguments. There is no spectrum. For example, you use the vaccines, again, anti-vaccine, pro-vaccine argument. When I tell people I'm against vaccines, they automatically go, well, vaccines don't cause autism. I'm like, well, I never fucking said they did.
Listen, they're looking for that box to put you in.
Exactly. And that's a problem. That means your brain has been compartmentalized. When your brain is compartmentalized, that is actually a psychological disorder. So when you have a whole nation of people that do that, then no wonder y'all on medical fucking, you know, tropes.
But all right, that's a whole other topic.
That's another podcast. Like I said, bonus round, right?
All right. So
I like that. I think when we do our podcast, every once in a while, when we have some informative stuff, we're gonna, you know, sometimes I'll read articles if I find interesting ones. Like the one about Ghana, we're gonna do that one day, but that's gonna be long in the future.
The law of Adobe.
Yeah. I'm not saying nothing else.
I got you. Yep.
Those who are curious will find out what I'm talking about with their own research in the situation. But yeah, and then I'll email you links so you can post it in the description box and everything. So anyone who is interested, because I really love for you to start getting, you know, your followers to actually, not followers, your subscribers, to start actually researching this information so they understand where your perspective and my perspective actually come from, that they're actually not just, you know, we're not pulling them out of, you know, heaven's ass. We're literally doing the research ourselves and coming up with it. It's a hypothesis more so than it is just, it's an educated guess, shall we say.
Well, you know what it is, like, I love to actually have those type of hypotheses. you know,
Me
and
too.
it's like sometimes the theories are like so fucking wild out there. You don't even like think about it. And the thing is like there's a huge chance you actually can be wrong. But
Absolutely.
part of part of actually making educated guesses is to actually you have certain information in front of you, and you analyze some of the patterns and to actually see where that conclusion will lead you at.
Yes, there's also such thing as confirmation bias, which we all have.
Yes, we do. And but the thing about it, though, a lot of people, um, once you make a certain claim that is too ahead of its time, then they would actually dismiss it right away, call you crazy, whatever the case may be. And then once it start happening, then they pretend that you never make such assumption.
First they're angry at you, then they laugh at you, and then they agree that they were right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like for example, right? Say that we make this assumption that like which we probably did before, pedophilia will be normalized, right?
You did, yeah. I knew that was gonna happen.
Yep. Everybody will get at you, right? It's like, you're homophobic, you this, you that, a whole bunch of shit, right? And then once it start happening, once they start creating those little, they dropping hints, like, the researchers about, how it's a disease now and all this other shit. And then all of a sudden, people will start normalizing it. And if you actually,
how is it not normalized when someone like R. Kelly comes out? Okay, I'm bringing this up because this is actually a current event. Somebody like R. Kelly becomes accused, and everybody's known about R. Kelly's proclivities for ages. Okay, but now he's coming out, and do you know the big argument online right now is why are people paying attention to R. Kelly when all these priests have been doing it for so long? Stop being distracted.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? So the kids that he's damaged don't matter because there's so much other shit going on in the world. You can actually be mad about everything.
Man.
No?
It's this whole thing, as in, like, you got to protect your own type. It's this whole, tribal mindset.
I mean, I understand some people's argument when it comes to R. Kelly, where they're saying that's another black man that they're coming for to destroy his legacy. And to be honest, I wouldn't exclude that idea, because it is very possible. But let's face it, everybody's known about R. Kelly for decades now.
But that's gonna be another topic. We gotta talk about.
Yeah, hey, we went.
We gotta write that down, man. Jesus Christ, because it's like it's already been past half hour, shit, more than that. So I don't want to go too much crazy. But yes,
so, with Dr. Kelly, we can wait until everything settles down anyway. So that one we can save for like next week.
All right. So this is Arbanaka, serious.
Serious.
What else would you like to add?
No, I think yeah, that's as much as we got. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
All right, cool. So this has been awesome, because it's like once we start talking, man, we don't want to fucking stop. And we try to make it as short as possible because nobody really have the time to listen to like a 1 hour podcast. And that drives them insane. It's like goldfish attention span. All right, but anyway, so we out of here, guys. Take it easy. Like, subscribe, comment. And you can find SyriEyeS at
research.
Yes. And yes, continue reading. Always expand your mind. Expand your mind, challenge everything, question everything. All right. We out of here. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.